So even though this is a 2020 and a half, basically a brand new RV, built, roughly, I think in July of last year, and I picked it up in September time, you can see that the die core is already separating back here. This is the very back corner, and you can see where this is broken away from here. I also noticed a hairline crack on the other side at the end of the season that I actually just used a little bit of electrical tape to keep it from propagating. That worked fine because I knew that I would come back and cover the whole thing with that 4-inch Eternabond. So before you just slap the Eternabond down on this stuff, you don't have to cut it all off like we did on the other video, but you definitely do have to clean it. And there's basically two cleaning methods. Cleaning method number one is you can use mineral spirits, but you cannot get mineral spirits on your EPD roof right here. So I'm going to try and avoid mineral spirits since this is a fairly new one, and just use a little bit of soap and the handy Scotch-Brite pad right here, and just give this a nice clean, a nice rinse, let it dry fully, and then we'll apply the Eternabond seal across this back area, and then we'll switch to the front cap and do the same. So this is the other side. Again, you can see I've got the exact same problem. This is where I actually had a little bit of electrical tape over it. It's also already peeling away here. And then also you can see right here, it just like never really filled into that seam either. So I'm going to be applying the Eternabond tape so that it makes sure to overlap this trim portion right here and then fully covers over to here. That's why I'm using that 4-inch piece to make sure that I've got a good worry-free seal across this entire back. I might peel up a little of this stuff where it's so weak it's not even like adhered at all, and you can just see the way that that is, not even really doing anything for me right there. So we'll clean that up a little bit before we apply the Eternabond seal on here. But in general, that's what we're working on, is getting it down and across this lap seal right here. And then in a different project, I'm not going to use the 4-inch along this edge right here. I've actually looked into buying a 2-inch to run this entire between the gutter and this part of the roof, so that'll have to be a different series. But like I say, I'm going to get this gunk cleaned up so that the Eternabond can really have a nice seal on here, so we can get some of these imperfections covered up. So I'm not sure how well this is going to come through in the video, but where this finger is, that is the absolute cleanest that I could get it using the Scotch-Brite pad and soap. Whereas just a little bit of mineral spirits on a microfiber cloth really took off all the dirt. So like I say, I've cleaned this as best as I can with the Scotch-Brite pad here, and now I'm very carefully going over this with just a little bit of mineral spirits on a cloth, a scratchless polyester cloth, trying to get this really cleaned up here. I'm impressed, but I'm trying to be very careful as to not get that onto the EPDM roof right here, but only get the mineral spirits right here. So I'm using very small amounts and only a little bit at a time. So some quick tips on how I've been doing this. I've been pouring just a tiny bit of mineral spirits on the cloth here and then working in like about a 6-inch section. And then you can see it's soiling the rag up pretty quickly with that. And then I'm just rotating around and going to a cleaner spot on the rag so that I'm always applying clean. And you can see that it's really come up. But again, I'm being really careful not to get mineral spirits on the EPDM roof here. But I'm actually really impressed with how it has cleaned up the die core here. So I'm hanging out on the side of the ladder now to kind of give you a view of how I installed this. And I actually wrapped it all the way over to this gutter trim right here, because again, I plan to add a 2-inch piece of this tape and run it the entire length down the gutter seam of this later. And of course I wanted this to be underneath so that the side seam was on top as I ran it down. And you can see it gets a little bit of a pucker there around the edges, but otherwise turned out really smooth. Some key points is that I really wanted to make sure that I had a good overlap to this back trim piece right here. And that's what I really kept my eye on as I worked this all the way down. I started in one corner, obviously. Of course, there's no way I could hold the camera and do it at the same time. But peeled back about 6 inches and then just continued to peel back a little more, 6 inches at a time, and very carefully just temp setting this and then wetting it out fully later. But you can see it gets a much cleaner look. Now let's go up to the front and see what kind of issues we see up there. So we're up in the front now, and I haven't cleaned any of the die core material yet, but I already had some cracking going on right here. There really wasn't pleasing me, so I just kind of peeled it a little bit, and this whole strip just came up right here. So I actually had an RV with a roof delaminate in this exact same area where I was driving back from a vacation, and in my rearview mirror I saw a big bubble up in the sky, and realized that this portion had separated from my roof. And they actually did end up covering it under warranty, but it ultimately led to me getting a different camper. So as I look through here, this is a tricky to do with just one single piece. So what I'm actually gonna do is cut some strips, probably bigger than this test piece I've got right here. And I'm actually gonna put a couple initial pieces underneath here after I get it cleaned up to make sure that it's got a really good seal. Because I think this is kind of a sensitive area as we're kind of going around this corner. And I know it's probably hard to fill in at the factory, but it just seems like there's not a lot of die core at all on mine in these corners right here versus the main area up here. So I'm gonna get this stuff cleaned up, and then we'll talk about how we're gonna apply these smaller pieces and then overlay the final total. As for the middle areas, I am just gonna clean the die core and just try and get this as even as I can, you know, a long strip all the way across. It looks like this 4-inch piece will bridge both from the die core up to the front cap, give it a lot cleaner look, also reduce the maintenance and just take a lot of worry out of my mind, because again, I've had some issues on previous travel trailers with this type of setup right here. So here's an update of where I'm at on the front cap. I have cleaned up the die core here with some mineral spirits as recommended. I've also wiped down and dried the EPDM roof along with the front cap as well. And now you got to make some aesthetic decisions, because you can kind of see this from the side a little bit if you're one of those people that's really worried about it. But I really hated the way that this rain gutter came to this garnish, came to this roof. All of that was just leaving me a rat hole for water to go into. So I knew that I wanted to make a little under patch, and I've actually ended up making it 2 pieces here because I really did not like the way that they had barely caulked this in at all. So I took some of that out and I put this patch, and my intention is to then put the strip across here and line it up. So all I'll have is this line, and then there'll just be this little strip down the side. You know, potentially if you were real concerned about it, you could just put a little more die core right there. But I really just wanted to have the peace of mind of that, of the Eternabond tape right there, because I was really not feeling how that was done. When you bring, you know, the front cap, the EPDM roof, this trim piece, and this gutter garnish all into one location, that's really tricky to seal right there and seal in a good way. So I'll take a 1-inch by 1.5-inch piece of less than perfection at this high up here to have a little better peace of mind. So next I'm going to work on getting my 4-inch strip across here, and then I'll show you some final pictures. Alright guys, it's on, and I am definitely not going to lie, there was definitely a tense moment there. You know, I started on this right hand side and worked my way to the left, pulling the backing strip off and setting it in place, and kind of when I got to the middle, the whole strip kind of slipped forward off of the front cap of the camper. I would definitely recommend doing this with a friend to be able to hold that in down there so that it doesn't slide on you. Luckily I was able to kind of slow down and get it in place and get it tacked, and I'm really pleased that I was able to get it, you know, completely on the EPDM roof, but then also get it completely attached to the front cap and cover up all of that die core underneath that I had cleaned. Like I said, I definitely recommend doing this one with a friend. I was doing it solo today, and don't know how I would do it again. When you're working on the very front of your roof, it you know, it's got a little angle to it, so even if you're good with heights, you kind of always feel like you're about to roll off the roof, and trying to struggle with this really sticky stuff at the same time is maybe not the best. Key point I said in my last video, and I'll say again, you know, I normally like to wear boots around, but on the roof you definitely don't want metal rivets or anything on your shoes right here, right? You want to wear some very basic tennis shoes so that you're not scratching through your roof and putting holes in it as you're going along. Now I'm going to hop down the ladder, get the supplies off the roof, and let you all see what this looks like from the ground. So back on the ground, this is what it looks like below. You can see just that little strip, kind of that 1-inch strip coming down at the top where I wanted to seal in all those joints coming together. Aesthetically, it doesn't really bother me, and you can see I also didn't run the 4-inch strip all the way over the edge because of that black cap and that they had already siliconed it. But as you walk around the camper and you get to the front, it just looks like a nice solid straight white line across the top. So I don't think that it detracts at all from the look of the camper. I definitely feel a whole lot better about that material covering up versus having to go up and worry about the die core. And like I say, long term I'm thinking about getting the 2-inch version of this tape and run it all down that gutter seam. I'm not sure if I can get that done in one single piece all the way down. Definitely need somebody to help me out on that one, but it may be possible. If not, I'll do 2 strips and start from the back and work my way forward. But I think if I were to do that, then that little strip right there wouldn't even stand out. But like I say, I'm a whole lot more confident in the waterproofing of that Eternabond tape than I am just slapping more Dicor on the roof. Thanks for watching. Leave me some comments. Hope this helps.